You're listening to Making a Living Show. I'm Roby Levy.
Hi, I'm Heather Ellison, and I make pop music for a living.
Heather Ellison got her start singing in nightclubs for a country band. She was only 15 at the time, so her grandfather had to chaperone. She went on to write and perform her own music as Uni and Her Ukelele, releasing albums, touring the world, and winning awards. These days, she's one half of the pop duo Astronaut Ice Cream. Here's my chat with Heather Ellison. Who are you, and what do you make for a living?
Well, my name is Heather Ellison, and I am a songwriter, singer. Chanteuse, I should say.
Oh, français. Very nice.
Yeah, that's the only French word I know. You're welcome.
So tell me, how'd you get started singer-songwriting? Singing, songwritering? I don't know.
Singing, songwriting. I've been a singer all my life and have been in bands since I was 15 years old. And I started off being in cover bands and like playing in bars for like 5 hours a night at 15. Like my grandpa was my chaperone and he loved it. My first band was a country band, and that was in the 90s when it was really popular to line dance. So all these like middle-aged couples that owned like small businesses came out, and this was their social scene. And I loved it. You know, I learned a lot, and I learned stamina with singing, and I learned how to be in bars. And
well, I was going to say a 5-hour show. I mean, 15 or otherwise, it doesn't matter how old you are. 5 hours. That's like Prince level.
Yeah. I just learned how to memorize. I think with music, I have a very good memory for music. I can't say that in other areas of my life, but I just know how to memorize music.
Did you learn formally? Like, were you taught like lessons and all that kind of stuff?
I've always been a singer, and I did take lessons in high school to learn how to sing, you know, properly, like using your diaphragm and head voice and, you know, forming the musical vowels correctly and breath. And I mean, it really helped. I still use what I learned now. What I learned back then, I still use now, many, 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 many years later. And so I was in bands, learning how I was in a swing band after that, 9-piece swing band. And I just had a lot of fun trying out different genres. I've always loved pop. I grew up in the 80s when MTV first came out, and I was very influenced by that, by Madonna and Cyndi Lauper and Prince and Bruce Springsteen. And, you know, you know, the 10 music videos that they had at the time that played over and over. And like, that was such a big influence for me. And I very much like the visual with the audio. Well,
I was going to say your performances now, and certainly in your various iterations, they're very theatrical and they're very visual. There's always a dance component. There's costume. There's always that kind of fun stuff. Is that where that harkens back to?
Yeah, I've always been drawn to the whole package, you know, the catchy song, the performance. You know, one of my biggest influences was Madonna. And, you know, she was kind of a little bit good at everything that made her superpower. She had superpowers because she could dance, she could sing, she had theatrical costumes, you know. She knew who she was, and she was her best, you know, like she brought it. And so, yeah, I definitely have always been drawn to the full production, like the beginning, the middle, and the end of a show. You know, I don't have a huge theater background, but I did do some theater stuff. So I think that influenced it too. Like knowing colors that look good on stage, knowing how to do your makeup, you know, and that all took many, many years of doing it. Like I can put my makeup on in a dim, grody bathroom at some bar in like 2 minutes and be show ready. Like I have an old school mentality of performance, you know? So, but when I started to write music, I was living in LA, and I really wanted to learn an instrument because I knew that I wanted to write songs, and I could sing the melody, but if you know how to play an instrument, you know, you can find out what chords you're doing and the structure of the song and all that stuff. And I used to take a bus on Santa Monica Boulevard. And, let's just say it was in, Hobart and Santa Monica or whatever, that area. And I would take it all the way to Santa Monica. So an hour and a half on the bus when I lived in LA, just to go to McCabe's to take guitar lessons. That's what I did. That's devotion. That's how much I wanted to do it. But I never really felt much for the guitar. But after my lesson, I would go and look at the wall of ukuleles at McCabe's. And I was just like, I love ukuleles. And then I'd start to see a ukulele at, mind you, it wasn't cool. Ukuleles were not cool. This was the early 2000s. Only, old men with ponytails and wearing Hawaiian shirts played the ukulele at the time. But I was drawn to it, and I kept obsessed. I kind of have an obsessive personality, and I was like, I got to get a ukulele. And when am I going to get a ukulele? And finally, I got a ukulele for Christmas, and I taught myself. I got a book on chords, and I played games with myself. Like, if I'm in the key of C, I'll write a song in the key of C, and like what chords go with key of C. So I already kind of knew a little bit about theory, but I really learned about theory by playing an instrument.
Yeah, and ukulele and guitar do not directly translate by any stretch. Like I've picked up a ukulele. I've played guitar for years, but only by ear, really. And then I picked up a ukulele, and I could not figure out, like there was no direct one-to-one relationship I found.
Yeah, the tuning is just all over the place. But if you learn your chords and stuff, it's really a great instrument to not feel stressed out about. Like it takes a long time to sound good on a guitar. It takes a long time to sound good on a piano. The ukulele, it does not take a long time. And so you can get past that, and you're playing songs and you're having fun. So you're practicing and you're wanting to do it. So I started writing songs on the ukulele. And like I said, I had been in bands. I had played many, many shows. I was used to performing. Once I got the ukulele and I started writing songs, I couldn't perform. I was so nervous. I had to sit and play at open mics. I knew that I wanted to get over this fear. So I would go to open mics. I'm like, wow, I'm starting over. You
were scared to actually play the ukulele live, or to sing and ukulele?
Well, I'm used to singing, but to do a two-dimensional instrument and sing and perform, that's like 4 different things. Keep time, that's 5. I mean, I had to learn a new skill, and it was great. So I started going to open mics and started sharing my songs and getting more confident. And at that time, I moved to San Francisco. For a long time, I worked at Amoeba Music. So I worked at Amoeba Music in Berkeley, and I moved to Hollywood, worked there for a few years, and then I moved to San Francisco. So my 20s was Amoeba Music. That's my schooling, was at Amoeba. And, because I worked at Amoeba, I met a lot of like people putting on shows and bands and musicians working there. It was a great resource.
Yeah, that place is a real hub, right in the middle.
Yeah, it was like handed to me. It's easy. Not many things in life are, but that was. And,
were you discovering more music there as well? Like different stuff? Were you incorporating it into what you were making and writing?
Oh, I think I absorb everything, it's like, I'm not like saying I, memorize everything or like are really paying attention the whole time, but I am soaking it in and I put it somewhere for later. And then sometimes I realize, that song this song I wrote, I was influenced by this other song from my childhood and didn't even know it. It's just in there, because when you write, for me, when I write songs, I tend to just go to a blank, vulnerable place. Like, just don't overthink it. So a lot of times I'll write song hooks or melodies while I'm driving my car or riding my bike on the train, because I'm in motion and there's already a rhythm going, and I'll just be like singing like a little melody, and then I'll get a hook, and then you can build a song around that. So I moved to San Francisco. I was working at Amoeba, and I started getting shows, and I started standing up and playing. I graduated from sitting to standing, and then I graduated from like kicking my leg while I played, or stomping and keeping rhythm with my heels that I was wearing. did a lot of stomping, you know. Yeah, I love rhythm. So I would just I would pour on the floor with my heels. And and then I created my act, Uni and Her Ukelele. And that was maybe around 2003, 2004. And the first album that I made is called My Favorite Letter Is You. And it was really fun to record. It was all over the place. A lot of friends helped me, a lot of home studios. And then I put out my next recording was I'm on My Way EP. And I reunited with a friend of mine I went to high school with, and he has a recording studio in Sacramento. So that's when I started recording in a studio. My first album is very lo-fi. Some people love that the most because it's not perfect. You feel them. It's very vulnerable, and you feel the shakiness and there's a journey about that album.
Yeah, and there's character from start to finish, right? When it's just slightly wrong, then it's to me it's always. I always like the lo-fi stuff. I always like the stuff that's got that extra character where it's just, even though there's mistakes in it, they're the right mistakes, and it just makes all the difference.
I used to make my CDs too. They were these cardboard jewel cases, and I would sew a booklet.
CDs for the kids are compact discs. They're an ancient form of transmitting music. Go on.
Yeah, and I used to burn my CDs. I would burn it. So it wasn't even professional. I just would burn it. And I did a lot of gluing, and I would color on the CD, the CDR, and it was it took hours to just make a freaking CD. But everyone I sold, it was I made that. I made that for you. That's, I should have numbered them because, it's they were kind of special.
Other than, I guess, for financial reasons, was there a reason you were going that route? I mean, I've got to assume by that point you could still, whip off 1,000 discs, for relatively cheap and stuff like that. Were you at the beginning of your recordings at that point? Were you just doing this in order to get the music out?
Oh, I never had enough money to do that at that time. I did end up, and as I went, I did go more and more industry standard, but, I enjoyed making the CDs, and then I could let's say I have a bunch of shows. I make 30 of them back in a batch. And then I make them when I need it. I used to silk screen my own t-shirts. It was very DIY when it was a time when that was cool too. It was really cool to make your own merch, and MySpace was starting up. MySpace was very friendly.
MySpace, for our listeners, is an old social media platform. It bombed. Go on.
I feel like we're giving a really good music history lesson.
I'm just glad there's somebody else who actually was doing music at the same time I was and was doing all the same things I was, because I was doing music in and around that time too. And, yeah, we were just fumbling along trying to figure out how to get music heard and how to get it recorded and how to get it written, how to get it out there. And in much the same way, we were just doing everything. DIY was literally DIY. It wasn't even computers were all that helpful. Certainly there was little to no social media and all that kind of stuff. So you really had to get out there, and you had to do something different and do something special. And again, if you didn't have the cash, which none of us had, you had to literally make your own stuff.
Oh yeah. Any money I would get, I would make a batch of what I needed to sell to get more, to make more. I was working at Amoeba at the time, but I lived in San Francisco, which is a very expensive city, and I didn't make very much money, but I always found a way. I feel I have a really strong work ethic, and I just hustled, and I played a lot of shows, and I focused. I was very focused on social media, MySpace at the time, which is very different from now. It's a whole different ball of wax. But at the time, I really felt like I was in the pocket with that. And I started touring, I made my favorite letter is you. I'm on my way EP. Then I made a compilation of my best songs and a couple of new ones. So I made my greatest hits already. I could do that. I'm an indie artist. I made my greatest hits. And then I also I collaborated with a string trio, that harp, cello, and violin. And we took my songs and arranged them with those instruments. And we made a CD called Uni and the Ding String Trio. That was the group. And the album's called As Gold. So we took my songs and we did it in a different way, which was awesome, and cause I feel like my songs can be done in different ways. And in my shows, I can play with almost anyone. I've opened up for hip hop. I've done a lot of burlesque. I've done a lot of comedy shows, rock shows, you name it. I like my act, Uni and Her Ukelele, was kind of for everyone. I did kids shows. Like,
I was going to say, you've definitely got like there's a through line of sort of playfulness and comedy and fun and silliness that goes all the way through Uni. Was that what let you actually play with all of these different acts? Like there was always something in there for everyone. I mean, everybody wants to be happy ultimately while they're listening to music.
Oh, it's so funny. My aunt said something to me before I did all this when I was younger, and I was playing in a lot of cover bands, and she was just like, "Why are you wasting your time on cover bands? You should write your own music that makes people happy." She said that. And I was like, who are you to tell me what to do? Like, you don't know me. And then I was like, years later, I was like, she was absolutely right. I should write music that makes people feel something, and, or share my feelings, and maybe it'll touch them,
Well, maybe that's a good area for me. I'm curious, where are you getting the ideas for your songs? I mean, your aunt said to go and make people happy with you, but not all of your songs are outright about happy things.
No, a lot of them absolutely aren't. But when I wrote them on the ukulele, there's something melancholy about the ukulele. Like you can play sad songs, but they just make you feel emotion. Happy might not be the right word for it, but but there's hope, it's so weird because inspiration comes at interesting times, but the more you do it, you're honing your craft. And, because I learned to play an instrument and because I've had all this experience, if I get a hook idea, I can generally just bust a song out,
Do you have exercises or things that you do that sort of get the creative juices flowing? Like, are there things that you can do if, that you can kind of set it on automatic effectively?
Sometimes it's just like doing the work, the artist way, kind of. It's just just write every day.
Right.
I don't tend to do that. I'm lazy sometimes too, as I think I have a good work ethic, but I am also lazy. But I have to make sure everything's cleaned up before I can allow myself to do something creative, or, you know what I mean? Those weird things that we place on ourselves. But, I just try to be creative every day. I try, for example, I have a garden, and that's soothing to me. I take a walk in nature. That's being in movement. Like I said earlier, is a really good way for me to be creative. Also, sometimes being upset with the situation I'm in, I don't want to do this dumb job for, if I have a day job, I don't want to do this forever. I'm going to write an album and get out of here. When I made my living as a musician for, probably 5 or 6 years, when I didn't have money, I would go busking. I had a street amp, a cube, and I would go, and because I can play for hours and hours, and I know a lot of songs, I would go down to the Ferry Building in San Francisco, and I would set up. And because I was pleasing and I wasn't intrusive, I was allowed to play. And I learned how to get tip money without being a creep, or pushy, So to kind of sum up Uni and Her Ukelele, my last album that I put out, Lover's Cliche, I did it professionally. It got pressed, that album took 4 years to make. It has a beautiful artwork, and by that time I had already toured many times in Europe and Australia, and I toured in New Zealand. I played in Canada, all over America. And mind you, a lot of this was, making connections on MySpace. I didn't have an agent, and I didn't have someone doing it for me. I was doing, all of it.
So, and then flash forward, now you are in a duo, not so much a solo act at this point. What's your, what it's called Astronaut Ice Cream?
Correct.
What is the possible reasoning and rationale behind the name Astronaut Ice Cream? Do they eat a lot of ice cream? Do astronauts eat ice cream?
Well, when my friend Kirtland, we've been friends for a long, long time, and I moved to Chico after I moved away from San Francisco. I moved to Chico about 4 years ago.
Where's Chico?
And Chico is close to Sacramento, about an hour and a half north.
Right. Chico's known for like
fires.
Yeah, now it is absolutely. No, I read something about Chico. What is it? They've got a yo-yo museum. Is that the yo-yo museum? Do they have that?
There is a yo-yo museum.
I've secretly outed myself as being into yo-yos. Why? Yo-yo? Have you been to this thing? I mean, I got it.
Yes.
You've been to the yo-yo museum?
I have.
Is it everything that you had hoped a yo-yo museum would be?
It was really cool. I mean, if you like yo-yos, you should check it out, you know.
All right.
Can't say that's one of my things, but
all right. I'm going to check that out at some point. So you moved to Chico. This is when you started in with the new act, right? Did you put a bow on Uni? Is Uni done at this point?
I took a break from Uni. I think, you know, she'll make her way back, but I think it's really good to try other things too. Like I'm always playing the same person, you know, over and over again. One of my friends said, "You're like Bowie," you know, like, which is a huge compliment, but you know how like there's Ziggy Stardust, and then he was, you know, this and that, you know, but he's always playing the same version of himself. And I think that is definitely what I do too. There's a little Uni in everything. So, when I moved here, I did like a really cool thing. I did a little acting in a play that was called Puma, Pussies, Under Massive Attack. It was a wrestling play. I got to be a wrestler. I was the Denim Dazzler, and I was the good guy. So since I was the good guy, I lost. But, you know, at the time I was really into handstands. So I was like, I get to show off my handstands in the ring. And yeah, it was really fun. And like at that time, my friend Kirtland was like, you like Madonna. I like Madonna. Let's start like a Madonna band. And there's no pop band where I live. Like, you know, a lot of folks here, they like bluegrass or like metal and stuff. And I'm like, we are like a poppy, dancey, happy band. And we started, because out of like, being pissed that there was like a Madonna show here, and we auditioned and we didn't get it. So we're like, F you, we are now going to really make this Madonna band. You're going to regret not having us in your lame show. So Kurt's really loves to create like electronic beats, and he likes to arrange, and he can kind of play everything. And he's a songwriter too. Like he loves songwriting, and he's in a few other bands. And he's like, come on, let's do this. And I was kind of like, for a few years I had writer's block, you know. I think I was just tired of all that, you know, there's a lot of hustling and touring, and I just kind of needed to decompress for like 5 years. And then like, you know, he's like, come on, let's do it. And I started, and I'm like, this isn't good. And then I found my flow.
What do you think happened?
I like let go of my ego, or the negative stuff that was like, maybe you're not good at this anymore. Maybe you don't have anything left to say, you know? And that's when like I said, you go to a blank, vulnerable place, and you just write stuff, and 9 times out of 10, it's not good, but you might get something that's really, really good that you can riff off of, you know, you can take it somewhere else. You know, music is about vibrations, right? Like literally. And so if you hit the right vibration, it like transcends you. And so it's a really good feeling. So once I felt the really good feeling again, then I was like, no, I want to do this. And when we wrote our first album, Feel Every Emotion, and the song Want, I came up with, that's kind of like our most popular song on like YouTube and stuff like that. It's very catchy. And I came up with it, the guitar riff and the chorus, the hook, in my car when I was driving to music lesson. And I had to like stop. And when I get ideas, I sing it into voice memo on my phone so I don't forget it. And I think when we started writing Want, that's when I was like, oh, I'm on the right track. This is what I want to do. And it's really nice to be in a duo. Like I love being in the band. I started my career in band situations. But because I learned to play ukulele and sing by myself, I was able to do more because I only had to rely on myself. I didn't have to get, okay from that person, okay from that person. I just did what I want. It was very good for me to do that on my own. But now I'm like, I love collaborating, and being in a duo is great because, we both, only two people have to agree.
What's it like to write with the two of you? Do you write a song, he writes a song, and then you bring it to the other one and just go from there? Or is it like you start with a riff, you start with some lyrics? How does that kind of come together?
I tend to be a person who writes the melody first and then might get a few lyrical things. He is really good at taking my ideas and making them better or making them make sense. Sometimes I can be very dreamlike in my writing, and maybe it makes sense to my brain, but he's a good partner for me because I'm an emotional creature and he is like very logical. So everything is more math for him, and I'm in colors, and he does the programming and he does the video. He's a heart, I got really lucky with him because he gets a lot of pride from doing everything. Like, he's an amazing person with sound. He's actually a sound engineer. And so like now that I've had him and he knows, I know what I want, but I don't always have the words to say it, but he knows. Like I could say, this doesn't sound bright enough or round enough. And he knows exactly what I mean. Other sound guys would be like, oh my gosh, she's a diva. I hate her. So when we write, it depends. Like sometimes I don't have anything and he'll get it started and then I can jump in. We really tag team a lot. So it's like for example, when we wrote Want, I came up with the hook. I came up with verses, but he came up with the killer, pre-chorus leading into we really work it together. It's a group thing.
Do you ever feel like you're giving something up in order to be creative? I mean, it's sort of a loaded question because as creative people, like we get so much from being creative. But what do you think you give up by being creative?
I've kind of learned to live a very frugal life and live without a lot. I don't own a lot. I rent a room in a house and it's perfect for me because if I get to go on tour, I don't have to worry. I try to make my life very simple so that I can say yes to things and take chances. If I'm under incredible debt or I have these big payments or I have a job that like I can't just take time off and go, then I miss out on my life's opportunities. So I keep my life very simple. I have a few jobs I string together to make money. I'm a music teacher. I do respite. So I've learned to have these skills so I can always get a little bit of money. And then, if I'm told come to LA tomorrow, I'm there.
What's the ultimate goal? What are you hoping to achieve creatively?
Creatively, I want to we're working on our third album. Astronaut Ice Cream's working on the third. I really want the trilogy. I just feel like it's all about number 3. I would like to play festivals and, realistically, I have realistic goals, like open up for, I would love to open up for people like Hall & Oates or ABBA. They just put out a new album, or play. I could be on the side stage of the concert. I don't care, I just want to do it. It's not. I don't have these when I was younger, I wanted to be famous, but now it's way more important that I love what I do and I'm creative and I'm in the moment and you meet cool people. being on the road, you meet so many cool people and you start to think like, oh yeah, in general, people are good. This person who doesn't know me helped me. They gave me a ride. That person gave me food. That person let me sleep on their couch. I got to where I needed to go. Like, sometimes the hard stuff is the stuff that makes us like more appreciative and like, makes us see things for what they are. Like, if it was easy, it wouldn't have been as deep of a journey. Sometimes I think, the phone has really ruined music. Like, people can't listen to a full song anymore, let alone a concert. Like, it's so important to me to feel like intimate with the audience and connected. Like they really matter. This is for them. And it's also for me. We're sharing it. And it's really hard in modern days to have that on the phone. And we worry so much about likes, and we worry so much about, saying the right thing. And that's what I love about playing shows, because even when you make a mistake, it's over. It's already happened. It's in the past. You can just keep going. You're going to make mistakes in your set, and then you're going to have these amazing moments where people cheer because you hit a high note or whatever. Some people might cry. I don't know. It's just an incredible feeling to be in the moment.
So Heather, what kind of advice do you have for somebody who's looking to get into music, wants to make their life creating stuff?
I say, just do it. Don't think about, is this the right way of doing it? There's no right way. Just do it. Just make mistakes and learn from them and keep going. Just make content. Follow your passion. It's your life. It's your legacy. Do what makes you happy.
Well, Heather, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing with us how you make a living.
Thank you so much for having me. And Robin Collins is a jerk face. I hate that guy.
Subscribe to Making a Living Show on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and pretty much anywhere else you get your podcasts. For more on the show, visit makingalivingshow.com and follow along on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Making a Living Show is produced by Next Exit Media and hosted by me, Roby Levy. Thanks for listening.